All right, so for anybody who knows the Nintendo 64, you probably know this game. You probably have heard of this game. In fact, I played this game like when I was really, really young, when my parents decided one weekend to volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. Yeah, I don't even know what we were volunteering for, but basically we had to go to this building in the middle of Macon, Georgia, and volunteer. I have no idea. I don't know who lived at the Ronald McDonald House. I think it was probably like cooking up meals for sheltered people, you know, homeless or battered or otherwise. I have no fucking idea, but I do remember that I didn't have to do shit because I was 10 years old, 9 maybe, 10. And that they had a Nintendo 64, and that they had Mickey Mouse Racing. And I remember playing it. I remember not necessarily enjoying it or disliking it or anything like that, but I remember specifically playing that game. And so here we are, you know, like 15 years later or something like that. And the game has been brought into my periphery, right? At least in terms of it being a rareware game, being a kart racer, and being a Nintendo 64 game, basically. You know, those three things have turned me on to it. But the most notable is that it's a rareware game, and that it's a kart racer, and that it's the second kart racer that Rareware developed. Of course, the first being Diddy Kong Racing, which is absolute masterpiece. I mean, probably one. You'd be hard pressed to find a better single-player kart racer anywhere out there, except for maybe here. And so that's sort of the thing. Like, this game is like a rareware game, but it has, at least to my knowledge, has always been in the shadow of Diddy Kong Racing, and then obviously like Mario Kart, that kind of thing. You know, it's one of the lesser known kart racers on the system, and I think that there's only 4. I think that it's only Diddy Kong Racing, Mario, this, and then like Lego Kart Racer, which, as far as I know, is actually kind of bad, right? So how did I find out about this game? Well, Nintendo 64 Glenn Plant, my favorite YouTuber of all time, you know, he posted a video about it, and he was like, you know, it's not that great. But it's a worthwhile game to play. It's not that great, but you might as well play it if you have a 64, right? And this was his review, like, when I don't even know, like years before I found out about this guy. And so his reaction to it, like 10 years ago, was pretty lukewarm. And then recently he released some kind of like kart racer video or some such bullshit. And his opinion had totally changed. He was like, super worthwhile, definitely worth checking out, very good game. Rareware's dirty little secret is what he called it. And I'm like, wow. You know, because I see, despite the fact that he had released the prior video 10 years ago, I saw it only within the past, like, 12 months or something like that. And so I'm like, wow, he really changed his mind about this game. And I love Diddy Kong Racing. I really like, you know, kart racers, at least on this system. And so I was like, fuck it, $20 on eBay or something like that for the original kart? Like, why not? I'll try it out. And I gotta say, for any of you out there who own a Nintendo 64 and have yet to play this game, you have to play this game. I would argue that it's of the caliber of Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, but it's just like those two games, which both veer off into completely different directions. This is the third that veers off into its own completely different direction. You know, there's nothing about this game that strikes me as inferior to the other two. No, rather it is its own fucking thing that runs adjacent? What is adjacent? That runs adjacent to the other two games adjacent. Next to, yes, exactly. We have these three games that are running adjacently next to one another. In that they're different. They have different sort of mechanics. They have different priorities, we'll say. But they run adjacent to one another in that the quality is the same. It's matched across all three. You know, Mario Kart is a surprisingly quick-paced game. You know, easy to pick up, very easy to pick up. But it's got the fucking rubber banding, you know? Like, you're playing, it's a fucking game. It is a game. You know, the racing takes a little bit of a back seat, but, you know, to say that is to say that the combat takes a back seat to the racing and vice versa, you know? It's a really well-balanced game that's got a lot of different things happening at the same time. Whereas Diddy Kong Racing it's more of a racing game. But you have to know the maps. You have to know where to hit the speed boosts. You know, you have to sort of be well-versed in the game itself in order to be good at it. Again, it's its own thing. Here, with fucking Mickey Mouse Racing or whatever the fuck, Mickey Super Speedway or Mickey Speedway USA or something like that. It's its own thing. Like, this is probably the most faithful kart racing game we've seen yet, wherein the pickups, you know, the boxes that you hit are very substantial, you know, and I disagree with N64 Glenn Plant on this point, who claimed erroneously that the pickups don't mean jack shit. Yes, they do. They make all the difference in the fucking world, first of all. But secondly, it is about being able to drive really well. You know, you're not going to win. Here we go. Mario Kart basically stands the Vin Diesel test. You know, for any of you people out there who've seen the first Fast and Furious movie. Is this still recording? First Fast and Furious movie where he's like, what's his name? Paul Walker, rest in peace, apparently, is like, well, I almost beat you. And Vin Diesel's like, you didn't almost win. It doesn't matter by how much you win. I still won. You know, the scene is ridiculous. The movie is ridiculous. God bless Vin Diesel. But his entire point was that it doesn't matter. I still won. Even if I beat you by a fraction of a second, I still fucking won. And that's basically the case with Mario Party. I mean, seriously, Mario Kart. For anybody who has played the game, you know that nothing matters until like the last 45 to... Don't fucking bite me, you fucking jackass. Seriously, fuck off, Mom. Nothing matters until the last 45 to 30 seconds of the entire race because of the rubber banding, because of the items, you know. And so that's the case. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are at the game. It's strictly like a matter of those last 30 seconds meaning something. Diddy Kong Racing? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You have to be good at the game in order to win. Mickey Mouse Racing? It's a little bit more similar to Diddy Kong, but the items actually mean something. It's not, you know, like the item, you can... It's just a better balanced game than the other two, I would say. The other two veer too heavily in their own directions. You know, Mario Kart is like... Seriously, for anybody who has played Mario Kart 64, you know what I'm talking about. You know how extreme that game is in terms of, like, bullshit. And for anybody who has played Diddy Kong Racing, you also know how extreme it is in terms of its own bullshit. You know, a more fun, skill-based kind of bullshit. A little bit less random than Mario Kart 64, but the same thing. It's like they are just so mired in their own mechanics that it almost becomes impossible to play them in a casual sort of sense. Like, you have to know the game in order to be able to play the game well, in order to have fun. There's a learning curve, in other words. Whereas here, I don't think I've ever played a racing game on this system, let alone in general, that is so easy to pick up and master and have fun with, you know? And this game is like, it has nothing to do with skill, which yeah, all right, everybody. Jack, you fucking suck. You fucking suck at video, fucking 25 years old playing fucking Mickey Mouse games alone. Shut the fuck up, all right? You can pick it up and play it. It's easy to play, and there's nothing fucking wrong with that, because here's the thing. This is not necessarily the challenge, but the scope of the game, we'll say, is that it fucking feels good. It feels phenomenal from start to finish, no matter what your difficulty, unless you're playing at amateur setting. It feels phenomenal. And so my thesis here is that this is the most articulate kart racing game we have on the Nintendo 64. The most articulate in that it is so responsive. I believe, well, would you fucking scoot the fuck out of the way, my buddy? It's a year 2000 release, you know, and we know what to expect about these year 2000 releases on the system. Nobody fucking played them, but they were like the best of the best. You know, the year 2000, I think it was 2000. If I'm wrong about Mickey Mouse being 2000, then don't correct me, because I'd rather not. I don't give a fuck. But to make my point, year 2000, we have this, we have Majora's Mask, we have Kirby, we have Indiana Jones and the Infernal fucking Machine, you know, all of which are games that, I mean, next level masterpieces, but that, you know, maybe didn't get played as much as the other ones because people were obviously moving on to better systems, you know. And that was kind of, it was a bit more of a thing back in the day. There wasn't necessarily a, never mind, actually. But anyway, a year 2000 release, very few people played it, presumably, but if the quality of the other year 2000 releases is anything to go by, I mean, it's a fucking masterpiece. You know, everything, you've never played a kart racer that you've been in visual awe of until you played this game, you know. Same with the controls, same with like the 60 frames fucking per second, come on. When have we seen a 60 frames per second fucking racing game aside from like what, like F-Zero? You know, at the very beginning of the system's life, that was a 60 frames per second game for the sake of being a 60 frames per second game that sacrificed everything else to have a steady frame rate. Now we have a steady frame rate. And we have some of the most beautiful maps ever in a kart racer on this system. And some of the most articulate controls, the most responsive controls, you know. And there's a huge differentiation in maps from start to finish. You know, some maps are longer, they do require items, and some maps are shorter. They require you hitting all the speed bumps the same way you would in Diddy Kong Racing, you know. And this is a rare game. This is a rareware game, and I know that most people actually are unaware of the fact that this is a rareware game, and they think it's some Mickey Mouse fucking Elmo's Adventure bullshit, but it's not. You know, the whole Mickey Mouse thing is strictly an IP. That's it. It's just licensing. You know, see past like the skins involved, and you're gonna find one of the most easily to pick up racing games, one of the best feeling, most fluid, buttery, articulate racing games you've ever fucking played. And you're gonna master it like that. And the joy comes from being able to then play the rest of the game knowing exactly what to do. You know, you don't have to spend the entirety of the game mastering it, like Diddy Kong Racing, you know. Diddy Kong Racing, I only would consider myself good at the game after having played it 100%, including mirror mode. Here, I only had to play like 1 or 2 Grand Prix before I understood exactly what the rest of the game was going to entail. And then realizing that it was simply a matter of like memorizing the map, you know, becoming familiar with the maps. So for that reason, this is the most recreational kind of kart racer we have on the fucking system. And it's a rare game. And I disagree with N64 Glenn Plant, who said like, he said something of, what did he say? He said that it was so unlike a rare game that it was almost refreshing because it was like a different team, it was a younger team, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is like a rare game through and through. It's so cartoony, but it's so well realized, you know. And this game in particular has a great motif of like American cities, right? Like Philly sucks. Philadelphia fucking sucks. You know, it's just like a bunch of like storage containers on the coast. And then New York is great, you know, it's got this funny little sewer section, but there's a bunch of brownstones and there's a little bit of like smog, you know. And then Chicago is hilarious. And they have a sense of humor here because Chicago is literally a sewer. Like the map you play, it's like Chicago is a sewer. You don't see any buildings or anything. You are underground in a sewer the entire time, which is really funny. You know, they do the full American tour. You're going from, you know, Cape Canaveral, you see like on the Florida coast, which is like it's sunset, it's really swampy. You see a rocket lifting off into space, which is great. The White House is the, you know, green grass, and then you have like cherry blossoms, and well, not cherry blossoms, you have the beautiful pink flowers and great architecture. You know, it's just every American level for anybody watching who lives in the States, which maybe most of you. It's a really funny sort of thing to see because, you know, Rare is an English developer, you know, so it's really funny to see their caricaturization of the United States. But, you know, also to play through these like familiar kind of territories. And that's about it, you know, that's where I guess I'll end it. But to recap, a beautiful game, amazing graphics, incredible lighting. The menus are really fun. But at the end of the day, you're playing, at least my experience of it was playing this thing that I kind of had this sense of having been good back in the day when I played at the fucking Ronald McDonald house. But playing like a really good Nintendo 64 game. You know, this is like a tried and true Nintendo 64 game. Like you would never see this game on PS1, on PS2, on any other fucking system. You know, only Nintendo 64 and Rareware could ever pull off a game as like frivolous and cutesy and cartoonish with an equal measure of incredibly sophisticated gameplay, sophisticated graphics and lighting engines, and you know, a game that keeps you coming back because it's just simply so fucking addicting. And if you have a 64, you have to get this game seriously. It is probably, it might be my favorite kart racer. I mean, Diddy Kong is obviously the best, but in terms of like my experience of it, it might be my favorite. Because I'm already at that Diddy Kong level of like comfort with the game. Like being able to just cut corners and just understanding it so well, so quickly. They did a great job. Play the fucking game. Mickey Mouse Racing, baby. Play the fucking game.